Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how in just a few seconds, you can start testing the content on your page. So simple, you're going to be amazed. AI is doing all the heavy lifting. Let's go. Right, first of all, the key thing what we need to do is install this little Chrome extension. This Chrome extension allows us to select content on whatever page you want on your website, define the test, and then also get the test suggestions of what content we can potentially change to. So the Chrome extension I've already installed here. Wherever this video is, there'll be a link for that. Once you've installed the Chrome extension, you'll see it here. When you just navigate to whatever page you want, so say I want to test this header here, or this little kind of call to action here. On the home page of PageTest, I would navigate here. Now, one important thing is that you need to be kind of logged out. If you can see here, we're using WordPress and I'm logged in. Essentially, you want to be viewing the page as an end user would do. So as a kind of a new visitor to your site, how they would see your website, that's the kind of state you want to be in. Once you're in that state, then all we need to do is go to the little Chrome extension for the page test there and choose test this page. Now what that's going to do is bring up this little modal here. You can move it around if you want to kind of have it in a different position on the screen. But essentially all this is going to do is show you a list of any of the tests you've already created for this page. So with Page Test, essentially you can create as many tests as you want, testing different things, maybe testing buttons, call to actions, headers, maybe some bullet points, any other kind of call to action content on your site. Anything that's textual content essentially on your site, you can select and test. So you can have multiple tests going on, but obviously when you're just starting, you're going to have no tests, and we're going to see just an empty box like this. But with this one important option here, add new test. So we select that, and then straight away you can see that we're now back into selection mode, and I can move my cursor around the page and select any element. So if I wanted to maybe test this element, or maybe my main call to action, I can select that element, and then straight away you can see AI is getting to work and it's looking for some suggestions for content that we could use for our new kind of main call to action, if you like, on our kind of header above the fold text. You can see we've got 10 options here, and all of these presently selected. Now, if there's one that you don't particularly like, you can, of course, unselect that. Or if there's one that you kind of do like, but maybe you just prefer something slightly different, maybe you don't like the dash or the semicolon, we can just edit these and just kind of change them as we need. So just to, like I said, a little tweak. If you've got, for example, here we've got a couple unselected, we can do a refresh. What that's going to do is keep all the ones that we liked and selected or edited, and the ones that we didn't like, we're just going to replace those. And now we can see the new content suggestions based on that replacement. Additionally, if we think that maybe we've got some of our own content you want to add as well, of course, nobody's going to know your business better than yourself. AI is just there to enhance, if you like, but we can add our own custom suggestions as well. So if I wanted to have a specific call to action in there, I can add that into the test as well. So that's us choosing the content. Then next is we want to say, how do we determine when content is successful? And that's when we come to our test goals. Now we have 3 defined test goals right now. Of course, we're always looking to add more, but right now, so the key metrics are either going to be time on page. So for each visitor, how long do they spend on the page? And is that kind of going to be impacted by changing this content? And so we will see the success percentage of increased time on page and how long that time on page was per test. So we can just simply select that there. Alternatively, we can choose click element. Now what we're going to do here is, maybe we've got a call to action next to a button, so we want to click element. So when we choose an element and we click that specific element, we're going to click that element and we've got that selected, so we can then measure how many people click that button. In this case, it could be a link as well, and so anything that's clickable from a user engagement perspective. And then thirdly, visit URL, so visiting any other URL on your page, on your site. So whether it's a thank you page, registration page, or whatever else, maybe somewhere else on the site where you're looking to drive engagement. Does changing that content increase the likelihood of someone visiting the other target URL? So we can choose any one of those goals. And then finally, for our test, we're going to choose priority. So how important is this test in the grand scheme of things for this specific page only? So if we have 3 tests on this page, maybe testing the header, maybe some call to action content, and also some buttons, which one is the most important test? And that's how we're going to kind of bias the traffic. Where is the traffic going to mostly go that we're allowing? So when you set up your entire domain, you can set up a specific ratio, only 10% of traffic we're going to test, and then of that 10% of the traffic, how much is going to go to this specific test. So we can define that here by changing the priority between 1 to 5. Once we're happy with that, the final thing to do is to give the test a name. So in this case, it's our header test. So I'm just going to call it header, and I'm going to click save. What we're going to see now is obviously we've got our first test in here, and you can see that it's green for go, which means that it is running as long as we've got our JavaScript installed on the website. And obviously we can also control that in terms of either stopping it, editing any of those details, renaming it, or even deleting it. So lots of options there. And of course, we can get cracking on and adding another test as well. Another thing to bear in mind, that once we've selected an element, in this case we can see we've selected the AI-powered website content testing. If that wasn't actually the element we wanted, maybe we've changed our mind, we can just click this here, and that's going to allow us to get back into reselection mode for maybe a different header that we want to test. And again, that is also true for if we have it choosing a click element here, we can then reselect a different element again by selecting the HTML path of that specific element. So also one final thing, if you do get stuck here on this page, just click this little help button here, and you're going to find a whole treasure trove of support documentation as well as our chat support. I look forward to catching you on the next video. You take care. Bye bye.